Hi and welcome back to another video in our employment split series with Juji Hybel from Support for Sight in Essex. I've worked with Juji for years around employment. This video is around access to work, and as you may notice, we're still under lockdown, so we're still doing this over Skype, and I'm in my house today. Welcome back to our next video in this series around employment. Again, Juji Hybel from Support for Sight in Essex is with us.
Hi, Colin.
She's
Hi,
gonna.
everyone.
Hi. How are you today?
Good, thank you. You?
Yeah, not too bad, not too
Great.
bad. Ticking along. So we're going to talk about access to work today, which
Yes.
I know is one of our favourite subjects. We quite often talk about this quite a lot, don't we? So we're through one thing and another. So I suppose the best and first question to ask is, what is access to work?
Hi. Yes. Well, so Access to Work is a government-funded department, the government-funded scheme, and is out there to help disabled people in employment situations. So when you have a disability, most likely you need some aids, some help to undertake a job, and Access to Work is the government department that funds that support that you might need in the workplace to be able to work.
This is part of that sort of that, as we talked about retention before, didn't we? So this is part of that where a reasonable adjustment in the workplace isn't quite good enough or useful enough. This is kind of the next step, isn't it?
Yes.
So how do you apply, and what's the process of the whole application?
Just going back on what you said, so obviously, yes, it's available to anybody who's in work or going into work. There is no set numbers or minimum numbers you have to work. So even if you get a 2 hours job a week, let's say, the only requirement from Access to Work is that you are in paid employment. So you have to get salary for what you're doing, but it's no minimum or maximum hours you can work. And the way to apply, you can call Access to Work and speak to an advisor. Obviously, you need to have a couple of details in hand, like your national insurance number and various things. And you can just call and say, hi, I'm a disabled person, I'm in work but struggling, or I've been offered a job and I'm going into work. I have a start date, which is quite important actually, if I can point that out. When you're going into a new job, you have to have a start date, and then you call Access to Work before that start date. And or you can apply through the government website, which is just a very simple couple of questions. They will ask you your details and various things, and you can do it online. If you do it online, once you submitted your application, it's going to give you the application will generate a reference number, and an advisor from Access to Work should call you within 3 weeks of you made the application, and they talk you through the options and various things over the phone.
So after you've made your initial application, either over the phone or as you say online, what happens next? What's the process? What happens?
Okay, so you should be assigned an advisor who's going to be working with you for a period of time until everything you need is in place. There is 3 things usually that Access to Work offers to visually impaired people. Number 1 is an in-work-based assessment. Second is a traverse support to and from work, and the third one is to have a support worker. So if that's okay with you, really quickly, I will talk about all 3, just a minute.
Oh yeah, no, great, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you. So the in-work-based assessment is basically exactly what it says on the tin. Is an in-work-based assessment. An assessor who is experienced, hopefully working with visually impaired people, will go to your workplace, have a look at everything you need to do, your task, your environment, and would offer a solution for you to overcome the challenges that you're facing because of your sight loss in that job and in the environment that you are working. These assessments usually are face-to-face and conducted in the workplace. So if somebody maybe is off sick but they need an assessment in order to come back to work, I usually ask my clients to go in for the period of the assessment and be available, because obviously they need to have the assessment done before they can go back to work. And again, if somebody is new to the job, most visually impaired people would require some things to be in place before they can start working. So this is a couple of hours long assessment that take place with an independent person. It's nothing to do with the employer. This assessment is absolutely free. It doesn't. Nobody pays for it, and the assessor will write a report. The report will come back to the client, and the report will have a very important part of it, what we call a recommendation, where they are listing every single items that the person should have in their workplace in order for them to get their task done with their visual impairment. That, if you like, is your shopping list or is your wish list, and and then your employer is requested to get those items in for you. And once everything is in place, and you are able to use it, and you had your training maybe to use the technology, and you had sufficient time to really learn it, then obviously you will be back in work and be as proactive as you were before, hopefully. The second thing, the travel support to and from work. So obviously, for various reasons, people might need this service. It can be somebody who takes you to work, paid by access to work, or it can be a taxi. And it is really, again, picking you up from home, taking you to the front door of your office, and then picking you up end of the day, and then taking you back home. But it's really depending on what someone's sight loss is, and sometimes it doesn't really matter how long they had it. Is usually the ability to get out and about that is really not that good, hence they need this service. But it can be just that maybe they live maybe 10 miles away from their workplace. They used to drive, it was a straight road, but if they would be using transport, that they might have to go down to London to get change on the tube and then come back out again another direction. So it's just ensuring that the person can get to and from work in a safe manner, whatever is their reason.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is the support
I
work. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I just say it's so important to be able to get to work, isn't it? So it's a really good
Yes,
part
of
of the skill.
course. Yeah, definitely. And the last thing is having the support worker. So the support worker is somebody in a visually impaired, for a visually impaired person is obviously most of the time, 99.9% is somebody who has full vision, foresight, and is a human person who's actually doing some tasks that you, as a visually impaired person, are unable to complete independently due to your sight loss. The support worker can be with you for the full duration of your working hours, but they can only do up to 20% of your job description. So you, as a person, you are in charge of your job. You're making the decision. If you like, attending the meetings and being responsible for everything that you have to do, but you have that support there. If part of your job isn't accessible, then you would have somebody who can help you to complete your task. But all the time you are responsible for your job and all your tasks.
Absolutely. I mean, I have a support worker,
Yeah.
and
So,
one of
so
the things
go.
that patients will do is you'll take notes in a meeting because I'm unable to do that. So
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of funding, is just all depend is depending for well, there is not a simple answer for the funding. So if you are new to your workplace and you are a job seeker and you're going into work, everything you need is absolutely free. Your potential employer isn't going to have to pay anything towards any of the costs, because obviously that's the government support in terms of for employers for employing disabled people. Because if you have to employ somebody with a disability but it's going to cost you £10,000, you're quite likely you're going to be discriminating against disabled people. So this is the government support for employers who are employing disabled people. There is no charge. The assessments, both whether you are in work and as a retention, whether you're going into work, is absolutely free. In terms of the travel, it doesn't matter what category you are in, there is no charge from the employer, although sometimes the employer are asked to make voluntary contribution, but I have to emphasize the word is a voluntary contribution. They don't have to pay. It's usually depending your individual circumstances. How did you get to work before? So if you drove to work before or you used the bus, then Access to Work would offer you the taxi service, but you might have to contribute maybe the same amount that it would cost you to go to work on the bus for a week. You would have to contribute towards your taxi bill to Access to Work, towards the support that you're going to get in a taxi or having a taxi. as far as I know, they can't charge you more than 25p per mile, but that's kind of maybe the standard, that you would get everything for free, but you will have to contribute 25p a mile towards your
That's
journey.
right. It is 25. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last thing with the support worker, it again is paid by access to work fully. No cost to the employer, no cost to you as a client. And support workers. I mean, it's a very big subject, so maybe we could do another video on just the support workers and access to work, because the support worker can be somebody who's your colleague, it can be somebody who is your friend and they're working for you as or friends or family as a self-employed person. They can also be employed by your company and you could also employ them. So it's just depending on the situation, depending on the hours you need, depending the support that you require. There is so many solutions and various ways to go about it. Is really just down to your individual choice of what works for you best. But most support workers are self-employed, and they are responsible for paying their own taxes and national insurance contribution from their wages that they get as an hourly rate by access to work.
That's it's a good idea maybe to do
I think
a video
so.
on support, because as you say, it is quite a big subject. So generally, how long does a access to work grant last? How long do they fund you for?
So there is first of all, there is a cap on the funding, which I think is around £58,000 now. So all your support within a rolling year has to be below £58,000 a year, which I have to be honest with visually impaired people is a very good cap. Most people don't even get to any close to the £58,000. Once your support is approved, initially everything is in place for 3 months, 3 to 6 months, for just to have a quick review. So the advisor will call you and say, are you all right? Everything is working? Did you get everything? And then usually they approve it for 3 years. But you will always be given an information on how long this support is in place. And one of the things I would like to point out, the access to work isn't getting, they're not getting in touch with people to let them know that their support is coming for a review or is coming to an end and you need to reapply. So I would encourage everybody to keep that date in their mind, somehow make a note and contact access to work maybe 2 months before their support is stopping.
6 weeks. You can put the
2 months, 6 weeks is definitely worth for you to call access to work and say, I'm coming up for a review.
Note in my diary, usually. It's
good. Because I know people who just, the support workers stopped getting their salary and then they find out the support is expired or the support package. But and then also just to say, call access to work and find out what other documents, what other supporting evidence they might need to carry on with their existing claim.
Absolutely. And we have to point out this is a grant as well. It's not a benefit.
No, of course,
So it is a grant rather than a benefit.
Yes.
So the other thing to consider is that obviously you might have a change of circumstance in the middle there as well, mightn't you? So your vision might get a little bit worse or whatever. So you can go back to have to be reassessed if necessary.
Of course, definitely. Anything, change of job, change of building, change in hat, either way, good or bad, you can contact access to work, and there is a named change of circumstances, as you said, within you can apply to be assessed. Sometimes also things like technology kind of just not working anymore. So you have a software that you had for 2 years, then your company decide to get new IT in, and then suddenly your technology just isn't compatible or isn't as fast enough because it's like 2-3 years old. Then again, it's okay to call access to work and say, I need the newest version of something that you might be using.
So I mean, it's a really good scheme. It used to be a very well hidden scheme, didn't it, as well? But it's out there now. More and more people know about it. So have you got any top tips? Access to work top tips?
My top tip would be if you have any worries about doing a job like as a retention or going into work, and you maybe even have a good idea on what you might need from Access to Work, please always have an in-work based assessment, because it's just unbelievable how quick the technology is changing. Things that you maybe learned about 6 months ago, maybe there is a new device that even does more and better and bigger and shinier and just more amazing. So an in-work based assessment is always a good idea, because things change, and you could be very informed about what choices and solution you can have, but it's just good to have the expert in who can really just give you the insight what's available in your environment with the condition that you have.
Yeah.
And
Great.
call as soon as you can, like soon as you have a little bit of a worry. And again, can I just just to point out, the Access to Work obviously goes with the same definition of disability that I mentioned in another video. So you have to have a health condition that has an impact on your life or your day-to-day task, day-to-day activities at work. You don't have to be registered as partially sighted or severely sighted impaired to have Access to Work. If you have a health condition that you consider has an impact on you, please call Access to Work and have the assessment.
Okay, great, Gigi. That's fantastic. Access to Work is such a great scheme. Again, thanks for your time on this video. It's great to speak to you.
Thank you.
Obviously, people can contact you directly through Support for Sight.
Yes.
And then obviously they can contact me through the advice and information service at the Macular Society. We're going to come back to a few more videos, aren't we, on other bits of employment. So we'll catch you then. All right. Cheers.
Great. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye. Cheers. Bye.
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 Access to Work. What a fabulous scheme. Really worth using if you're in work or looking for work. Big subject though. So we've done a fact sheet, which is available on the Macular Society website, but we have put a link in the description below this video. Don't forget the Working Age and Young People's Facebook group and the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel though, so you know when these new videos around employment are coming, and other videos. If you want to talk to me about Access to Work or any other subject really, you can get me through the advice and information line on 0300 30 30 111, and we'll catch you on the next video.